Chapter 11, Areas of Polygons. Today we're going to cover Section 11.5, Circumference and Area of Circles. Our objective for today will be to know and use the formulas for the circumferences and areas of circles. Circumference is the distance around a circle. So if I look to the right, I can think of this circumference sort of similar to perimeter for polygons, and that the circumference is going to be the distance to go around the outside. And the formula to get the circumference is diameter times pi, or 2 pi r. So if I look, the diameter is, remember, it's the chord that goes through the center of the circle and connects on the ends. The radius is going from the center of the circle to a point on the circle, and we know that the radius is just half the size of the diameter. The area of a circle. So the area is describing all of this on the inside here, so how much space it takes on the inside of the circle. And we know that the formula for area is in squared units, and I can even see that the formula is pi times radius squared. Filling in the chart, they give us the radius, the circumference, or the area, and ask us to find out the other pieces. So the circumference, I'm just going to remember, is pi times my diameter, or 2 pi times the radius. So if they give me that the radius is 5, the circumference is 2 times that radius, 10 times pi, which is 10 pi. The area is pi times radius squared, so it's going to be pi times 5 squared, and 5 squared is 25, so this is really just 25 pi. The next one, they give us the radius is 3 square roots of 5. And I know the circumference is either pi times diameter or 2 pi r. So if I double this radius, instead of 3 square roots of 5, it would be 6 square roots of 5, and then I'd have to multiply that by pi. I'm going to get 6 pi, and I always put my square root last, so 6 pi square roots of 5. Area. Well, I know area is pi times the radius squared. And if I think about distributing the exponent in, I know 3 squared is going to give me a 9. The square root of 5 squared, square root of 5 times square root of 5 is square root of 25, which is really just a 5. So I end up with 9 times 5, which is 45, and then I still have the pi. Next one over. They're giving me that their circumference is 36 pi. Well, I know if I want to go from the circumference to the radius, I could set up the formula 2 pi r equals 36 pi. If I want to get the radius, I could divide each side by 2 pi. And if I look at what cancels, I can reduce the 2's and the pi's, reduce the pi's, and 2 goes into 36 18 times. So I would get that my radius is 18. Now for the area. Well, if I want to find the area, and the area is pi times radius squared, I'm going to get pi times 18 squared. And 18 squared, don't know off the top of my head, so let's type it in. 18 times 18 is 324, so I get 324 pi. Last one. Looking for my radius and circumference, and they're giving me the area. So I'm going to think of the area formula as pi r squared. So pi r squared, and I know the answer is 75 pi. I'll get r by itself. Divide each side by pi. R squared equals 75. Square root each side. And I know the square root of 75 can be split into the square root of 25, square root of 3, which means my radius is 5 square roots of 3. And if I want to go to the circumference, it's 2 pi r. So I would have to double this radius, which would be 10 square roots of 3, and multiply it by pi. So 10 pi square roots of 3. Use pi equals 22/7 to find the circumference of a circle with a radius of 21 inches. Well, I know if I want to find the circumference, it's 2 pi r, and it's telling me to use 22/7 for pi. So if I start to substitute it in, I have 2, pi is 22/7, and the radius is 21. And if I go through here, I notice that I can do some reducing. 7 goes into 21 3 times. And now I just need to multiply across. 2 times 22 times 3. So 2 times 22 is 44. 44 times 3 is 132. And there's units on this one. So circumference, which is just a distance around something, is going to stay in inches. Find the area of the following shape. If I look, I notice that it's really 2 separate shapes next to each other. Here's a shape that is a quarter of a circle, and then next to that is a triangle. So I'm going to find the area of a quarter of a circle and a triangle and add them together. And I'm going to call this area 1 and area 2. So if I find the area of region 1, I know it's a quarter of a circle, so it's 1/4, and the area of a circle is pi r squared. So if I substitute into that, I get 1/4 times pi times the radius is 12, so I get 12 squared. And if I simplify that, I get 1/4 times pi times 144. And I can think of reducing between 4 and 144. So I can reduce by 4, and 4 goes into 144 36 times. So I get an area of 36 pi. Now for the area of my second shape. Well, the area of the second shape was a triangle. Now the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. And if I look at my figure, I can see that there's a base of 5 and a height of 12. So this is going to equal 1/2 times 5 times 12. And I can also think of this as fractions. 2 goes into 12 6 times. So I end up getting an area of 5 times 6, which is 30. Well, now my area of the whole shape is going to be these 2 areas that I need to put them together. So let's take my 2 areas, 36 pi and 30, and add them together. Well, if I add those shapes together, I just end up getting 36 pi plus 30. And the units on that would be feet squared. Two cans of pie filling are needed to make a pumpkin pie with a diameter of 8 inches. If 3 cans of pie mix are used to make a larger pie of the same thickness, find the diameter of that pie. Round to the nearest 10. So let's see. 2 cans of pie filling are needed to make a pumpkin pie with a diameter of 8 inches. So I'm thinking of 2 cans gives me a diameter of 8 inches. If 3 cans of pie mix are used to make a larger pie of the same thickness, find the diameter of that pie. So now I want to know 3 cans is going to give me a diameter of how much? Well, let's see. I know that 3 cans should end up giving me an area 1.5 times the size of 2 cans. So let's find the area of 2 cans. So the area would equal pi times the radius squared. Well, if the diameter is 8, the radius is going to be 4. So it's going to be pi times 4 squared, which is going to be 16 pi. So I can really think that if 2 cans give me an area of 16 pi, that's sort of like saying each 1 can give me an area of 8 pi. So when I come down here to the 3 cans is going to give me an area equal to 3 times 8 pi, or 24 pi. Well, if that's the area, how big is the diameter? Well, I know the area formula is pi times the radius squared. I can divide each side by pi, and I get 24 equals r squared. I can square root each side and get that r equals, and then think, how can you split up the square root of 24? Well, I know that square root of 24 is square root of 4, square root of 6, which is 2 square roots of 6. So if my radius is 2 square roots of 6, then I should be getting a diameter that's double that, which is 4 square roots of 6. And it says round to the nearest tenth. So now I'm going to go to my calculator and I'm going to take 4 times the square root of 6. So do the square root of 6 first, times 4. Nearest tenth is going to be 9.8.